Welcome to Los Angeles and the 75th Annual Academy Awards. I'll be here to take you right through the night for one of the most talked about shows in the eventful history of the Oscars. Now, because of current events in the Middle East, this year the familiar frenzy of speculation has focused less on the destination of the awards than on the tone of the ceremony, and indeed whether it would go ahead at all. Well, happily, we haven't come all this way for nothing, and the Oscars are going to happen, complete with a gathering of legendary past winners here to mark the 75th anniversary. However, there have been some changes in the light of international events, most noticeably in the scaling down of what's usually the most improbably glamorous publicity opportunity in the world, the Oscar night red carpet. Now, we're told the arrivals are going to be a rather more muted affair this year, and with the latest on events outside the Kodak Theatre is a man keeping an eagle eye on proceedings for us, the BBC's Tom Brooke. Tom, how are you?
Very well, Jonathan. Good to hear you.
Well, where are you, actually? Well, you look quite high there.
I am high up, should I say.
Yeah.
I'm actually at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, just a short distance from the Kodak Theatre behind me, where the arrivals are taking place. Unfortunately, it's a less glamorous locale than we had hoped. As you know, I was planning to be on the red carpet. The red carpet was pulled this week. So it's a very odd Oscar ceremony. I've been watching some of the arrivals. People are really dressing down for this occasion. Very subdued. It's taking place under very difficult circumstances.
You're saying people are dressing down, but I mean, I've seen some, some lovely, colourful gowns out there, so maybe it's not as muted as we might have expected.
No, I think that's true, but you're not getting the interaction, of course, between the press and some of these stars. It doesn't look like people are having too much of a good time, and I think that's the main thing that is on people's minds. The word appropriate has really been bandied about in the last few days. People want to behave appropriately here. They're traumatized by the fact that America and Britain is at war right now. They don't want to make fools of themselves, yet the Oscars is one of America's biggest national celebrations. It's a really difficult conflict for a lot of them.
And of course, as we know, the show must go on. That's one of the kind of showbiz maxims that people live by. I hear there might be quite a few no-shows this evening. Do you have any information on that?
Well, I probably know what you know already, that Will Smith, as you know, a few days ago, he pulled out. Kate Blanchett is not coming, and Jim Carrey is not coming. He's been replaced by Matthew McConaughey as a presenter. And Peter Jackson, the director of Lord of the Rings, he's not coming either. I imagine there will be a few more no-shows, but we won't know that for a little while yet. But I think people are really going to use this Oscar ceremony as a platform for anti-war rhetoric. There are demonstrations taking place near to where I'm standing right now. I think that's going to kind of bubble over into the auditorium.
So you expect the people who may be going up to collect the award may well have things to say about events in the Middle East?
Definitely. The organizer, the producer of the Oscars show, he does not want the presenters to stray from the script. He wants to keep it as much as he can an entertainment show. But the winners, they have 45 seconds, they can say what they want. And if somebody like Michael Moore gets up on there and he wins for Bowling for Columbine, I think you'll hear a lot of anti-war and anti-Bush rhetoric.
We saw Andy Serkis, I think that was, who is obviously there as part of the Lord of the Rings posse, and as he was walking up the red carpet, I saw he was holding an anti-war placard or a folded-out poster of some sort. Has there been any of that going on? Is he the first, or have other people been making their feelings known?
Well, it's quite muted. I mean, one of the more interesting anti-war symbols is actually having duct tape on your collar. Now, the reason why is because the government here a few weeks ago suggested that the best way of dealing with impending war was for American citizens to get duct tape. So it's a rather satirical response. So some stars will be wearing some kind of duct tape arrangement.
Okay. Tom, I know you'll be there keeping an eye out for the rest of the evening for us. Enjoy yourself up there on the roof of the Roosevelt Hotel, which of course was the scene of the original Oscars way back when.
That's right. I'm going to try to do my best to have a good time under difficult circumstances.
You're whinging already. Stop whinging. You're out in the sunshine. You're at the Oscars.
I know.
Okay. We'll speak to you later. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Now, Oscar night may be a great viewing experience, but tonight you can be more than just a voyeur. Okay. Email me your pungent opinions, the address being oscars@bbc.co.uk, or you can text me, which sounds almost suggestive, doesn't it, on 07764 355 202. Visitors to BBC News Online have already expressed their preferences as follows. Best Actor, Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York with 32% of the vote. Best Actress, Nicole Kidman in The Hours with 45%. Best Director, Martin Scorsese for Gangs of New York with 36%. And Best Film, predictably enough, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers with 53% of votes cast. And I believe somewhere in the region of 54,000 people took part in that, so that's by no means shabby. It's not too late, of course, to choose your Oscar favourites. If you're a digital viewer, press red to take part in a poll to name your favourites in the major categories and vote for your most cringe-makingly over-the-top moment in recent Oscars history. Now, shortly we're going over to the host broadcaster ABC's preview show, but first allow me to introduce the distinguished guests joining me for the early part of tonight's proceedings. First up, an Oscar nominee, the star of MASH, and the man who stole Ocean's 11 from under the noses of George Clooney and Brad Pitt, Mr. Elliot Gould. Evening, Elliot.
Jonathan, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Another Oscar nominee next, the woman who scared the world to death when she was barely a teenager. From The Exorcist, it's Linda Blair. Linda, good evening to you.
And you too, Jonathan.
Thank you for coming. And you look lovely this evening.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad you didn't down gown for us.
I did not.
As they say.
I did not.
Elliot, let's start with you. How different do you think the atmosphere is this year at the Oscars? Have you noticed a difference in the build-up to the event or even on the day itself?
Well, I mean, we're at war, and we as a nation have such a responsibility to ourselves and the community and the world community that it's a much more sobering atmosphere, but we're continuing with the show. It reflects our way of life, and it's really important that we do the show. But everybody is aware of what's going on in the world.
So really, it's appropriate behaviour is the kind of key word, I guess, the key phrase.
Yes.
Okay. Linda, let me ask you about, well, I mentioned your gown. Let me switch the focus to clothes, which is such an important part of the night for many people watching. Many tune in largely for the fashions, it seems. Did you notice people going in? Did you think they have dressed down for the occasion? Have you noticed a change in the way people have prepared themselves for tonight?
Well, I know for the last couple of weeks we have been talking about should they dress down, should they change what outfit that they've planned for so long, maybe eliminate some of the jewels. But I think we've really seen both tonight. Some people have dressed down. Nicole Kidman looked like she might have refined a little bit, and other ones wearing very colorful gowns and jewels. So it's really all in their personal attitude about what's going on. The show must go on, and they're trying to give a show.
It's kind of tougher for the women, I guess, because us men, I mean, we would wear what we're wearing now. You know, we'll be going with basic black, and that's essentially what's called for. Where the women are expected to make a splash. And
that's exactly right. It's very hard for the women. We have to wear gowns. We're not supposed to wear any of the same things. The Academy is always about the jewels that the women wear. And so I think, it's just all personal opinion, also about who you are.
Toning it down a bit. Do you think it's going to be tough, Elliot, for those who win this evening to accept their award and obviously show how delighted they are, but not appear too celebratory in light of what's going on in the world?
Well, it's very emotional. As an artist, a worker, I mean, whoever wins is going to be very happy, but I do believe that humility is going to be very important because there is something more important going on in the world right now.
Linda, do you think there was ever a chance the show wasn't going to go on this evening, that the event would be pulled because of the war?
There was a lot of talk about it, and we wondered. But I think that the Hollywood community knew that if they did not hold the Academy Awards, that would transpire across the world, that we were in great alarm, that we were affected by the war, and we are all affected by the war across the world. But at the same time, I think they felt, again, that the show must go on and that this was something everybody expected every year. The Academy Awards are such a strong element of our profession, and entertainment, we try to make people's lives better or reflect on something that's going on. I know that they've just asked people not to make their own personal remarks. Please remember, just keep it reserved. But we're going to see a lot of different things tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting night, I think. Of course, it being the 75th anniversary, there'll be a look back at some of the highlights and some of the more remarkable happenings. You were there one night when there was quite a remarkable occasion. The night you were there with Barbra Streisand, I believe, when she was nominated.
Yeah, of course. When there was a tie. When Barbara and Katharine Hepburn tied, Hepburn for Lion in Winter and Barbara for Funny Girl. And I recently said to Barbara, the only thing I did wrong was I didn't tell you not to wear that dress.
That must have been a fun conversation in the car on the way home, I imagine.
No, it took many years. It took a generation later, and she said, yeah, why didn't you tell me?
Do you have any favourite moments from the past? Do you have any kind of, like, apart from that one, other highlights, other odd events? Linda, if you were there for one of the...
Well, I think for me the funniest was the first Academy Awards for me, where I, of course, was nominated, and David Niven was giving his great speech. And there behind him, all of a sudden, came a streaker. That was the years of all the streaking.
I'm sure a great moment for you for many reasons.
Well, they cut to me, and I'm 15 years old. I just saw it the other day. I'm like,
I might ask you more about that later on, because we're now just a tad over half an hour away from what promises to be a nostalgia-packed Oscar night. And now here's a chance to mark your card about tonight's big awards, courtesy of the pre-show that's coming to you from America's ABC network. Enjoy. Welcome back, and don't forget you can email your Oscar comments and questions to oscars@bbc.co.uk or text us on 07764 355 202. Bob Hope celebrating his 100th birthday. Wow, that's quite something.
I couldn't believe it. I don't think I realized that he was 100 years old.
Of course, he's a big part of Oscar night. He always has been, and I guess he's so much a part of the city here. The night itself, is it still celebrated by people who aren't that much part of an industry? Do people have Oscar parties, do you know? Do they build their evening around it?
Well, I think that the Oscars from one side of this country to the other, and even across the world.
Oh, and people have opinions and pools. You know, people will bet and put money into a kitty to see if they can choose the winners.
Although apparently that's illegal here in California, I believe. Just in case you've swayed the voting there. You've both, I believe, presented awards on Oscar night. That must be, I'm sure, fairly tense. Is it enjoyable at all in any way? Elliot, do you have fun doing that?
Well, when I last presented, and it was to Verna Fields for editing Jaws, I announced the score of the NCAA championship game, so that was a lot of fun for me.
What about you, Linda?
Well, the first time I did it was during The Exorcist, and I was with Ben Johnson, and I was so scared I do not remember a thing except just hanging on to his arm. And the second time was with Billy D. Williams, and I had to go. They gave me a huge staircase to go down. But I can tell you this, and I'm sure Elliot would also agree. When you go out there and you see all of these people, and you know there are millions around the world watching, your heart is fibrillating so badly, you just hope to speak. So I think sometimes during the speeches, people, I think they do very well, but it's understandable that they might sort of miss on something, that your heart is racing so much.
One of the most nerve-wracking events and jobs you can take on, I guess. Nowadays, a lot of talk is about the goodie bags that the presenters get to take home. When you were doing it, did you get the big lavish bag of gifts to take away, Linda?
I got nothing.
I got some Oreo cookies. They were good.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
Last year I travelled home on the plane with Judi Dench, Dame Judi Dench, and she gave me some of her presents, mainly toiletries that she didn't want anymore. So at least we know they spread them out to people who need them more than they do when it goes to those ones. We're going to go back any second now to the ABC pre-show, and then we'll talk some more in the next commercial break, so stick around. As I said, we're going back now over to ABC to find out. Before we do, just very quickly, what do you think about the gown so far? Do you think people have got it right?
I think they do have it right. Some people dress down a little bit. Other ones have gone on and maintained with the gown that they've prepared for months with the beautiful jewelry. Yeah. And it's each one is individual as to what they feel.
We're going to go back now to ABC for the pre-show. You can't beat a clip montage like that, can you? As soon as you see Gary Cooper from High Noon, I'm gone. 10 minutes to go, roughly. It must be a nervous time, I'm sure, for all the nominees who are now taking their seats or they're settling down for the show. Linda, the year you were nominated, can you remember, was that nervous for you, or were you just a bit too young to take it all in?
I'm nervous right now. I'm just watching. No, I remember being extremely nervous, but I didn't quite understand why. I was so young, and I didn't grow up in Hollywood. But the feel in the theater is extremely nervous. I feel. I don't know Elliot's point of view, but yes, everything's on. This is it. This is the big night. Careers change tonight.
Some of the famous bottoms in the world perched on the edges of their seat. Elliot, you were nervous that night?
Yeah, I was nervous, but I also was very excited, and they sat me next to John Wayne and his wife. So is that when he was called up, he leaned toward me and said, "When I go up there, you look after her." So that sort of got me calm.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to let the Duke down.
Never, no.
We've had a look at some of the clothes. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more later on. But do you have a favourite fashion moment from years gone by at the Oscars? A favourite outfit that sticks with you for either the right or the wrong reasons?
I remember, I think Halle Berry's beautiful, beautiful dress last year is something that's going to remain in our minds for a long time. That was on the edge. But there's been so many beautiful gowns. Once in a while, there's something that's you sort of go, what were they thinking?
Yeah. I think, Elliot, would I be right thinking your favourite would be Bjork in the swan outfit from a couple of years ago?
Well, it was, actually. Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
The running theme, of course, here for the 75th anniversary is favourite moments of Oscars gone by. Linda, let's start with you. Do you have one?
Really, I think for me it would be the one with the streaker.
The streaker. Was that the first time you'd seen a man in the nude by Oscar?
It may have been.
That's an impolite question. Elliot, do you have a favourite?
Well, it would have to be the night that my wife shared her Oscar with Katharine Hepburn. That was pretty great.
That's the nice way. That's how you learn to present the evening.
Yes.
I think my favourite would be, I sat here last year, of course, and it overran spectacularly. It went on for I think it was 4 3/4 hours. It felt like 4 3/4 days. My favourite would be the year in the 50s when it underran by 20 minutes, and Jerry Lewis offered that everyone should dance together.
Uh-huh.
And Peter Ustinov danced with Jane Mansfield, I believe, that evening, presumably at quite a distance.
That's funny.
But there you go, the history of the Academy Awards. We're going to go back over now live, and I believe we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Well, it's just about 2 minutes, I believe, to go before the awards itself kicks off. The picture that has the most nominations this year is Chicago. It has 13. Now, traditionally, the picture that has the most nominations tends to pick up Best Picture. What do you think Chicago's chances are this year, Elliot?
I think they're very good. It's a very popular picture, and it's a great score, and the people are fabulous.
Yeah. It will be the first time a musical's won for some time. I think the last time, Linda, was Oliver in 1968. Is your money on Chicago this evening?
I have a feeling everybody is in love with Chicago, at least in this town, and I think across America, and they want it to win. Musicals, when it's their time, it's just their time, and everybody's in love with Renee and Catherine and Queen Latifah. So I have a feeling it will win tonight.
With a good chance. Catherine, you mentioned, of course, amongst the many performances we're looking forward to this evening, one is from Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's 2 weeks away, I believe, from giving birth. So that could be exciting for any number of reasons.
During her musical rendition, that would be fantastic.
It would be an Oscar first, wouldn't it?
We forget the war for a moment.
Linda, do you have any preferences in the Best Actress category this year?
Well, I mean, everyone loves Nicole Kidman. She did a remarkable job, but I think they're in love with Renee Zellweger.
So you think maybe Renee?
Of course, Julianne Moore, she's got 2 nominations, she's got 2 chances. It's hard to say, but I think Renee's going to take it.
Okay. Elliot, any favourites for you? Any people you'd
Well,
like
I
to see?
think Diane Lane is a dark horse, but I think Nicole Kidman is a favourite.
Okay. First of all, I believe the first category we're going to encounter in the show itself is the Best Animated Feature. Quickly, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
I think Spirit, Stallion of the West.
I hope so.
That's probably the only one you can remember, and that's what it is. I saw
Well,
that
it's a
film. It
horse
was a
one.
terrible, terrible, terrible film.
Really?
Oh, it was appalling. No, the one that's got to win it for me is Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. That's the one. So I'm going to enlist you to join me on that. Okay, well, Oscar MC Steve Martin claims that hosting the show is like making love to a beautiful woman. It's something he only gets to do when Billy Crystal is out of town. But despite his modesty, I'm confident that the original Wild and Crazy Guy will do a great job, and his one-liners are just one of the delights in store as we go over now live to the greatest show on earth. Eyes down for Full House. It's the Oscars. There we go. What a start. What a start. What did you think of Steve Martin, his introductory
I think he did a
piece?
great job. It was very funny. A good idea to make fun of ourselves in terms of self-deprecation and using the actors and the stars in a funny way.
And also, it was quite pointed as well, I thought. Fairly pointed, referring to the razzmatazz has not actually been toned down that much, and talking about the fact that the Oscars is, it's a big money spinner for corporations. Of course, it's going to go ahead. I'm delighted so far with the results. I might as well go home early. Hayao Miyazaki picking up the Oscar. That's it for me.
Well, I'll have to go and see that picture now.
I tell you, I urge you. I tell you what, I'll take you.
Okay.
Okay, coming up
That's
when we
a
get
great
back.
offer.
Well, it's not so great, really. I'll be telling him all the good bits in advance. Coming up, we've got Best Supporting Actor. That's in the next chunk that we'll enjoy now. Chris Cooper nominated, of course, Ed Harris, Paul Newman, John C. Reilly, and Christopher Walken. Now, Chris Walken, he picked up the Screen Actors Guild award for this performance. That's normally a pretty good indicator, I believe, because, of course, a lot of the actors who vote for that are also Academy members. Who do you think stands the strongest chance?
Well, he stands a great chance, but I think that Chris Cooper also stands a really good chance.
A great performance there. Any
Well,
favourites?
I agree with Elliot that Chris Cooper was so transformed you did not realize who it was. And for me, that is important for voting on an acting performance. But you've got Paul Newman in there. You've got
John Riley is fabulous
Yeah.
in Chicago.
And he's a real favourite at the moment, isn't he, of just about everyone, I think. It's interesting to see so many faces there. I know there are, some people said they might not show this evening. Daniel Day-Lewis being one of them. He was very prominent there, sitting right in front of Martin Scorsese. So presumably, I would imagine they've got a fairly full lineup of everyone they wanted to come.
There are a great deal of people there that are renowned.
Okay. Well, now coming up in the next part, we've also got the treat, I believe, of Catherine Zeta-Jones' performance.
Oh, great.
As we know, she's just weeks away from giving birth after a night, presumably, of sexual congress with Michael Douglas. Let's hope that's how it was achieved. These days you never can tell. It's a risky position for a woman that far gone to put herself into. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think she'll be very comfortable, and I think it'll be fun for her and for the baby.
If not, Jack Nicholson's on hand with a mop, I believe. So
That's
things
right.
should just proceed as well as we hope. Well, it's all kicked off, I think, in grand style. Steve Martin, tremendous job. And, of course, the evening's only just begun. So we're going to go back over now to the Kodak Theatre on Hollywood Boulevard for the Academy Awards 2003, looking back on 2002. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night. Wow, great stuff. Elliot, what did you make of the Best Supporting Actor winner?
Oh, I thought it was fabulous. He's worked for so long and so hard, and to have accomplished that, I thought everything he said was heartfelt, and I'm very proud of him.
It was a lovely speech, wasn't it? I got the feeling maybe Christopher Walken was a little surprised. I was surprised.
Well, it was Chris. It was Chris. For a moment, I think he might have thought it was him.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I was just so excited because, of course, I thought that he'd done such a remarkable job, and I'm glad that he got it. He might have been a little bit of the black sheep, and yet he shouldn't have been the dark horse.
What did you think of the performance there, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Queen Latifah?
Well, amazing. Catherine Zeta-Jones, it was just so much energy and so much life just spilling out of her. I think it's monumental that she performed like that.
Not literally spilling out of her, that'll be
Not
a couple of
quite,
weeks'
yeah, no.
time, we hope, and there'll be midwives and equipment and everything.
Right.
Best Supporting Actor is often a category where you do get a surprise, and I suppose that was a surprise. But like many of the categories this year, it's a fairly close-fought competition, I think. I mean, there's a lot of people.
5 nominees were incredible. Paul Newman being in there, it was a great category, and I think a brilliant actor won.
Nice to see J-Lo toning down the jewellery for the evening. That was
she looked fabulous. But I thought Steve Martin was a bit mean to her, but I guess some people back home like to hear stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it was amusing in its own way. There does seem to me, it strikes me that maybe there's a hierarchy involved in the time apportioned to make speeches here, because the Lord of the Rings bunch, when they were up for the Best Special Effects earlier, the microphone was fairly brutally, I believe, I could see it being taken away from them as they got to the end of the speech. Chris Cooper, it struck me, probably was given as long as he needed there. Do you think that's the case, or am I imagining
I definitely agree. Chris said everything that he had to say. It was very concise. It was wonderful. He wrapped it up, said something very nice about, peace for the world. But it's going to show that those 45 seconds, and they feel like they go so fast, but I tell you, when the other fellows didn't get their time to say anything, but they're going to pull it so that nobody has a chance to say anything.
Well, I thought that Chicago winning the art direction was quite a surprise, because some of the other pictures, especially Gangs of New York, were monumentally mounted with enormous artwork, and I think it's an indication that Chicago is a very popular picture amongst the Academy.
Is it the case, and you both vote, I believe, you're both Academy members, you both vote, is it the case where sometimes people maybe are so won over one movie that they'll tick the box for it in just about every category it comes to?
Yes. That's true.
He's being
but
honest.
I like it's to the point, and he's really. And did you do that this year, or do you?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did. I'm not supposed to tell you,
And so, is Chicago the one that you were going for? You allowed to tell us that?
No. I went for The Pianist.
The Pianist,
yeah.
But don't tell us that because you're not supposed
to.
No,
I'm not supposed to.
Okay, oh, that's interesting. And Linda, do you want to give away what you?
No, I don't.
No? So you're being more guarded about it, obviously. We were talking about the length of the speeches, and the pressure has been on since virtually the beginning of the ceremony itself. Way back when, I believe in the 30s, people were told to keep them short. When you're actually in the running for winning award, do you make your mind up about what you're going to say with that in mind? Do you bear in mind the brevity of the time you're allowed up there? Did you have a speech plan for in the eventuality you might have won?
I didn't. I was so young. I was overwhelmed by everything. But I think that people do kind of come up with their speech. You always see people take their papers out. They've got all their notes. But they also say, this is my time. I've won, and I have people to thank. And that's the political side that has gotten so difficult in this town, is you need to thank everybody that has been there, from your management, your agency, your PR, the production companies, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, I feel like they might not get the next job.
So there's a pressure on basically to thank about people. Elliot, what about you?
Oh, yeah, well, I had my speech all prepared, but I never had a chance to deliver it. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
And that was it?
That was it.
That's so sweet. I mean, I'm sure they knew anyway that you were going to thank them.
Well, I didn't really think that I was going to win, but it was exciting to be there.
It must be. Well, when you get asked to actually present a category or be part of it, what do you think in advance? Why do you think people want to do it? What is the sort of
it's
incentive?
the highest honor there is to present an Academy Award. It's certainly not to go through the experience of being so nervous out on stage.
I think the highest honour is to
You're
receive
just
an award, probably. It's close.
You're right. You're right. My bad.
Okay, we've had some emails in, various people. Thank you very much at home for emailing us in with your thoughts. So the email address again is oscars@bbc.co.uk. Paul from Scotland's asked if we can confirm whether Tom Hanks will be at the ceremony. I don't know. We don't know if he's there yet or not. I know he was someone who might have considered staying away. And Scott from Kent has said he'd like to see Michael Caine get the Oscar for The Quiet American. What did you think of Michael in that? Sir Michael.
I think he's great, and I wouldn't mind seeing him win it, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, I suspect he won't, although I know he'd be very keen because, of course, he's won Best Supporting Actor twice, but never taken Best Actor home, and that, I'm sure, would be the jewel in his particular crown there.
Give him time.
We've had lots of other emails. Someone has asked me whether I'm auditioning for Reservoir Dogs this evening. Thank you very much for that. I thought I looked quite dapper.
I think you look very dapper.
As long as I'm not Mr. Pink, that's all. Coming up now, we're going to go back. We have Best Costume Design, I believe, coming up. We've also got the big one, Best Animated Short. I know that's something you look forward to every year.
Well, I mean, mine aren't.
Many of us tune out after Best Animated Short, really.
Yes.
After that, it's kind of all over. And we've got Best Action Short. So we're going back now live to the Kodak Theatre for, of course, the Academy Awards. Enjoy.